Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. And I'm on Twitter looking at some of the stuff Peter Crocker has been talking about. Peter Crocker, of course, does the restoration work on a lot of Doctor Who stuff, including the collection sets. And we know season 7 is in a bit of rough shape restoration wise for some of its stories. So Peter has been sharing some stuff about Ambassadors of Death with us. And he says here, he posted this on New Year's Day, it's your moral duty to have a happy new year. I hope 2025 is good for everyone and you get what you're hoping for. And he gives us this lovely screenshot here, uh, which looks like restoration work for season 7 from episode 3. And someone says, is this a screen grab from the new HD colorization? Peter Crocker says, could be the problematic episode 3, which, from what I understand, is apparently the hardest one to recolor from it. So, do you need any shots touched by hand? Why didn't they hire you or Rich or some of the others for the ambassador collect for the collection set? And Aaron says money. And he says that's a shame, as it could have really benefited from manual colorization, in my opinion. Though I do trust the restoration team to deliver a significantly improved product nonetheless. And Peter says, with respect to those guys, it took 6 of them 12 months to color 90 minutes. I had 6 months to do 13 full episodes on 10% of the budget. Do the math. Plus, they were rather occupied themselves. Which he says, that's fair enough. I'm sure it'll look amazing. And Rich, of course, Rich Tipple, who is the lead colorization artist on the black and white stories and has done lots of Doctor Who work. Rich says, looks great, Peter. Rich did a really good job, I might add, leading the team on the War Games, and I enjoy the Dallas color as well. And Peter says, considering the source material, it's a bloody miracle. And we have some shots right here from Ambassadors of Death, the new colorization, it looks like. Right here. Looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Gotta admit, really looking forward to seeing the restoration work on this. It's nice seeing these pictures. Skin tones look really good in these pictures. Really, really good. Someone said, what an amazing New Year's gift. This is going to look great on my TV. How long do I have to wait? Please say January, Peter. Here's an interesting thing. This is one of the reasons I wanted to make this video. It has been announced, but the trailer has yet to be released. No idea on release date, and I think he means for the box set, but can't imagine it'll be much past April. And here's the important part. Though restoration work is only just finishing this week. This was posted on January the 1st. So, Peter Crocker is just this week, and I'm recording this on the 2nd, just this week, finishing the restoration work for this box set. I don't think we're going to get this box set quite as quick as we thought. I think the original leak had February 24th. I think we were thinking late February, very early March. I think it might be later going off this tweet because he still has to send in the restoration work. They still have to get it all organized. And then they still have to print the disc. I don't know if they've already made the packaging or not. So, and the way he talks, he says, I can't imagine it'll be much past April. So maybe late April, early March, which kind of surprises me because I think that will bump this box set into the next calendar year for the BBC, or the next financial year, because I believe their financial year runs April to March. It's either that or May to April. I forget which. So I think that might bump it into the next calendar year. That's pretty interesting. No idea on release date, but can't imagine it'll be much past April, though restoration work is only finishing this week. So he is just, as I'm recording this, finishing up restoration work on season 7. That's interesting. Somebody asked, what's looks great. Out of interest was color recovery material combined with black and white telerecordings, which I think was done for Inferno and Claws of Axos. He said, color recovery by definition uses the black and white film recordings. That's the source of the PAL subcarrier. No color 5 was used in Inferno or Axos other than using the subcarrier as a reference for undistortion. And he says, thanks, it's been a while, and I had forgotten they used the 525 line color from Canada that was used. And then Doctor Who in the Mid-Journey asked, is this an AI colorization? And Peter says, no, color recovery and a ton of oofle dust. I don't know what oofle dust is, but that sounds hilarious. So we know now that a lot of the color recovery method was used for this. Looks amazing. Can't wait to see it. And here's another important part. Peter Crocker says, episode 3 remains the poorest of the 7 episodes. The starting point was very challenging. So of all of them and Ambassadors of Death, episode 3 seems to be the toughest one and was in the poorest quality. The starting point was very challenging. Said, amazing work. Thank you for all your efforts. And then Rich Tipple also added, you're not wrong. Damon's was hard enough. Was easier to work from black and white than fuzzy color that keeps moving. You worked miracles clearly. So that is one thing that Peter has said. I'm going to switch over to another thread in just a second, which is the more full version of this thread. Actually, I can probably just get back to it here. There we go. And you can see where I thanked him. Yes, I technically have a Twitter. I don't use it. That's why I don't really talk about it on the channel. I'm hardly ever on it. But I do have a Twitter at Prowl1701, me with the glowing green lightsaber. That's me if you want to follow me for whatever reason. I only post or comment occasionally. Not really a Twitter person. But I did have to thank Peter because this does look amazing. And I love when he talks about doing restoration work because he does get on podcasts where he talks about restoration work for like the difficulties for like Horror of Fang Rock on season 15, or how much easier it is to do something like season 25 where the masters all exist and they have all the studio footage work they can go back to, the original filmed masters. I love listening to Peter Crocker talk about restoration work. I could listen to that man talk about restoration work for hours. It's just fascinating to me. Craig, let's see. This is the one we already talked to. Could be the problem. He said, would you say Ambassadors, Mind of Evil, or some other Pertwee has been the greatest challenge when it comes to restoration? And Peter Crocker says Ambassadors by a short head. Mind was groundbreaking for its time with superb keyframing coloring by Stuart Humphreys, Babel color, but would be much easier now with the benefit of 12 years of tech advancement. CCC3 was as hard as FFF1. I don't know what that means. CCC3 was as hard as FFF1. I don't know what that means. And then Dublin Fox also added, that's amazing. Ambassadors was always the less cut and dry like the others of Pertwee's. I've read the VHS. He goes, there's only Invasion of Dinos 1 left to tackle. Will that be as hard as CCC3 and FFF1? And Peter Crocker says, easier. Fundamentally the same as Mind 1, but I have the methodology and the workflow worked out already. It'll be relatively straightforward, which one tells me that he just did this 2 hours ago on the 2nd. This tells me that, well, I went back, so he probably did this a day or two ago. But what this tells me is that he hasn't already done the restoration work for Invasion of the Dinosaurs yet, because he's talking about it in future tense, like it will be relatively straightforward. So he hasn't done the color restoration for Invasion of the Dinosaurs yet. I suspect that'll be the early set we get in 2027. But it seems like he already knows what he wants to do with it and what he's going to do for it. And that's pretty fair, and I don't think he's commented on anything else there right off the top of my head. But that's pretty fascinating for me to know that he considers Ambassadors a little harder than Mind of Evil, but Mind of Evil would be done probably better and easier with 12 years of an enhancement in tech if they were to do it now. The fact that they're just finishing up the restoration work on season 7, which means season 7 might release later than we think. We still haven't gotten an official release date, so that it could be dropping in April or May, possibly. That's interesting. I would prefer earlier, of course, but I also want it to look as good as it can. And then just finding out episode 3 was the most difficult. I'm curious if what all touching up they've done on Inferno. I need to actually ask him that. And I'm looking forward to Peter Crocker hopefully doing some of the radio podcasts. He does do radio podcast interviews. I'm hoping he does some of those in the next 2 or 3 months, where he really goes in depth on discussing the restoration work and the difficulties of the restoration work and what he did, maybe what little bit might have been done to Spearhead, if anything, what they did for Inferno, Silurians, and Ambassadors of Death, because that just fascinates me. Absolutely fascinates me. It's always nice to hear Peter talk about the restoration work he does. So I want to know what you think of everything we've discussed in this video. Comment down below and let's talk about it. And I also want to thank Peter for sharing this news with us on Twitter. It's always fun. It's the only reason I have a Twitter is to keep up with Doctor Who news, honestly. So I really appreciate him sharing the news and sharing the screenshots so we could see them. I really appreciate him doing that. If you would like to support me, there is a link to my Patreon down in the description. Check that out. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons: Colin Coney, Sam Venning, and Unknown289. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and YouTube members. My P.O. box is down there if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wish list is also down there. Also, if you want to support my new obsession habit, I've been picking up these Transformer blocky figures. These little blind boxes. I've got all of Wave 1, and I'm probably going to order Wave 2 soon, but I'd love to get some of Wave 3 and 4. So if anybody wants to send me anything that's not like Transformers related, I absolutely adore these little things. They're fun to build. They're fun to have. They're very articulated. Just if anybody's interested in anything else that I'm a huge fan of. Most importantly, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. And also, thank you for watching.